A very big part of Equity Trustees' business is our philanthropic business. And it's fabulous that through the generosity of our clients in the past and some of our current clients, that we're able to achieve such a major change in the community with the granting that we do from those philanthropic funds.
Philanthropy, if you take a literal definition, is around the love of mankind or humankind. And so there is a thought that just giving is good, and it is. There's something really beneficial to the individual who gives and potentially to the community. We believe that philanthropy can be more than that.
There's a big difference between philanthropic funding and government funding. Governments, go through very detailed processes assessing, what they should fund, and then they're looking for very, very specific outcomes, and often measured over, fairly shortish timeframes. Philanthropic funding does give you the flexibility and opens up other possibilities that might get you further down the track.
Philanthropy has often been described as the risk capital of the charitable sector. It's the money that's available to leaders in that sector, the people who are closest to the issues that they're seeking to address, to take risks, to innovate.
That ability to take risk means that we could get more innovative solutions. We could get solutions to other things that we weren't looking for. So it opens up a whole range of possibilities if you allow people to take a bit more of an entrepreneurial approach, a more flexible approach, and take things where they may lead sometimes. And government funding is not going to allow that to happen generally. The history of philanthropy in Australia has primarily been as a result of people being generous in their wills, after they die. And, increasingly we're seeing a change in Australia with, the increase in wealth levels and to some extent the disparity in that wealth, the way it's distributed. And with that, we have seen parts of the wealthy parts of the population be more willing to take their own active approach in philanthropy to try and address some of those social inequities.
The Wicking Trust is a large trust. It's a large charitable trust. It's worth over $100 million. It's distributing more than $4 million annually into the community. That gives us a great opportunity to bring about change. It also brings significant responsibility. And because of that, we've actively sought to understand the space in which we're granting.
The role of a trustee company is to honour the donor's wishes and to think about what the testator would have wanted. But also when you have a certain amount of discretion, like the Wickings have given to equity trustees, then I feel that it's our duty to be able to interpret that for them. So what may have been the case 10, 20 years ago in the areas of Alzheimer's and ageing aren't necessarily what's going to be happening in 20 years' time.
And we've spent a lot of time thinking about that. The Trust was established in the early 2000s. We spent a lot of time at that point in establishing a strategy. So it's more than just taking the words in the will, but it's actually applying our expertise to overlay a strategy in which the best way to achieve those objectives.
The Wicking Trust has been granting since about 2006, so it has many past grant partners that were under previous strategies. With the new strategy, we now have about $20 million of promised grants stretching out over the next 8 years.
In the case of the Wicking Trust, being strategic really has been about looking at long-term outcomes, trying to change the system, bring about systemic change. It's meant, therefore, that we've needed to look longer term, larger amounts of money, and really be patient and partner with the organisations that we support. It's not a transactional relationship.
When we talk about strategic philanthropy, I think a lot of people talk about philanthropy and they talk about charitable giving or charity. And whilst both of them are giving money to do good, philanthropy has a longer lasting legacy, I feel. And when we talk about strategic philanthropy in particular, we're talking about focus on outcomes. We're talking about bigger and longer, and we're talking about being there for the long haul.
The Will of John Wicking directed us to address issues to do with ageing, Alzheimer's and vision impairment, and we've taken that and translated that into a strategy to bring about systemic change in each of those areas.
So one of the recipients in 2016 was the Wicking Dementia Research Education Centre at the University of Tasmania. That was to support their massive online open courses, which in the next 5 years will reach up to 1 million people. One of the grant partners is Wichingham, which provides aged care for an often overlooked cohort of elderly people who are also homeless. Another ongoing partner of the Wicking Trust is Vision Australia, that looks for the ongoing care of vision impaired in Australia. One of the other grant partners is the O'Brien Institute and their work with microsurgery and cancer reconstructive surgery.
In addition to that, it's not just about grant making and distributing money. We know that that's a really important part of what philanthropy can do, but there is more. So with this trust in particular, we've sought to do additional things. We've created an annual symposium in which we bring together the grant partners to share what they're learning, to share what they're struggling with, and to build a network of organisations that are committed to the same broad goals that the Wicking Trust is committed to. In addition to that, this year, or in recent years, we've established a Wicking public lecture. It's an opportunity for us to bring a thought leader, often from outside the country, to Australia, to really share with a wide audience leading thinking, particularly around the issues associated with ageing or Alzheimer's. And we're continuing to look at ways in which we can do more than just give money to bring about the changes that we want to achieve through the Wicking Trust.
I hope that the long-term legacy of the Wicking Trust is that older Australians can face their senior years free from prejudice, that they have choices, informed choices about their life care, and that there is sufficient and good quality care for both informally and formally.
I hope, and I'm confident, that the Wicking Trust over the years is going to achieve fantastic things and really doing justice to the vision of the Wickings when they set these funds aside.
Well, it's no secret that Australia's population is ageing and that it's set to double by 2055, and so there'll be more older Australians than there are now. And what I hope through the Wicking Trust grants is that older Australians face a compassionate society, that the society is ready for the impact that an older, more senior Australians will have. And I also hope that we can see the opportunities in that, not just the challenges.
For anyone contemplating getting involved in philanthropy, I would encourage them to do so. It's an enormously rewarding experience. I would encourage you to start now. I would encourage you to start while you're alive so you get to see the benefits of your giving, and equally to set down a pattern for your future trustees to follow.
The Australian sector is developing all the time, and there's a long way to go before it's got the level of funding that you see, say, in the US sector and some parts of the mature Western European countries. But we're on the right track, and I guess with our newfound wealth that's emerged in the last 20 or so years, there's much more opportunity, I think, for the Australian population, or parts of the Australian population, to take a more significant approach to philanthropic funding.